Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Worthit podcast. My name is Thomas, and hello there, JD. Are you okay?
Hi again, Tom.
Oh, man.
Tom, do you want some news?
Go for it. I do want some news.
I've left my bed for the first time in this whole quarantine.
Wow. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I think we need a round of applause for JD. Woo!
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. So it's still quarantine. We're still here. We're still sat at home. We're still chilling out, doing our bits and pieces. Going out every once.
Setting in.
The boredom is setting in. Yes, of course. Going out very, very rarely just to do the essential shop and being good humans in general, trying to get rid of that goddamn coronavirus. It'll go eventually, and we'll look back on this day and think, "Holy cow, what the hell just happened there?" But I want to tell you something, JD. So today I was driving. Obviously coming home from work because I still work at Tesco, so I've got to go out every day, unfortunately, for all my sins.
You're one of the essential people.
So I was coming back home from Tesco, and I drove past a petrol station, and I thought, I looked at the sign, and normally, obviously, it tells you your prices and stuff for how much petrol costs at the time, and I looked at it and thought, that can't be right, surely. So I kind of like doubled back and looked at it again. 99 pence per litre. It's below a pound.
The price just dropped drastically.
So up to like about a week before the lockdown, maybe it was probably around about £1.29 a litre, and it's gone all the way down to 99p. Absolutely amazing. I was well happy. So I filled up my entire tank from empty, almost empty to full, completely full, was £30. It's the cheapest it's ever been, ever. Amazing.
I don't know what this means. I don't drive.
Yeah, you don't drive.
I've got you for that.
We've got to talk about that at least one day. Transport to set and how JD does it. That's going to be an episode of a podcast at least at some point.
Can you tell we're running out of topics?
Never. I actually think there's so much to talk about in general in media that I don't think we'll really ever struggle for podcast topics at all. I always come up with the podcast topics a couple of days before each time we record. So I just sit down and think, right, what do I fancy talking about today? I'm never gonna turn around and go, let's talk about something daft or something nothing related to media, because I don't feel like we've got anywhere near our limits as such. Unlike music, apparently, which is running out of notes and chords in combination. Did you know about that, JD?
No.
Apparently, we're almost getting to a point where music is running out of notes and chords in a certain structure that we're going to have to start recycling old material and older songs to, I guess, make new music.
It's finally going to reach the point where we go, hey, this new song sounds like anything else.
It's like every Hollywood blockbuster film ever. All recycled now. Recycled old crap. Speaking of which, we make films. So today's actual topic is based on the question I asked someone on Twitter. So AGBO Films are bringing out Extraction, which is coming out on the 24th of April 2020 on Netflix. It's actually produced by the Russo brothers and directed by Sam Hargrave. And they actually asked they had an AMA as such, and I asked a question to them. So I said, when creating complex fight sequences, do you often have to sacrifice creativity for practicality? Or does VFX and SFX save creativity? So it was a question that I wanted to ask them to see what their opinion was, and they haven't actually done the live session tonight. Hopefully they asked the question and I get an answer. I guess when it comes to blockbuster Hollywood films that they've got big sets of budget, they have almost an unlimited resource when it comes to creating these massive, large-scale fight sequences. They use blue screen, green screen, explosions. They have really highly trained stuntmen and stunt women, of course, creating these fight sequences. And they work for months and months and months on very small pieces that don't seem very big or have a large impact on the film. But in the end, in the long run, it creates this entire large sequence. So, for example, we look back at like these massive battle sequences for Lord of the Rings, and they took such a long time to coordinate, such a long time to practice and rehearse for. You've got these massive single take fight sequences like the ones in Netflix's Daredevil. There was a sequence where he was fighting off a bike gang inside this abandoned / derelict building. And it was like almost a 6 minute long one take action sequence. So it was just him raw fighting. and stuff like that. It takes such memory and such a long length of time, and it pulls away all the need for VFX and SFX. It's kind of slightly different when you come to the likes of your sci-fi, fantasy, action films, like the Marvel series, and the way in which the likes of Infinity War was mostly done offset, like a pre-built set as such.
Yeah.
But what's your take on a fight sequence, JD? You've done a couple in your time, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been in a few. And to be honest, they're one of my favourite parts. It's fun.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But then I grew up doing like exercises for like wrestling and things, so I've got a bit of a different take on what fun is.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about wrestling. Does it actually have an impact on how you create your fight sequences?
Entirely. If you can't do something safely, don't do it.
Yeah.
You're there to make something entertaining. You're not there to hurt yourself or risk your life just to make yourself go, oh, look, I could do this and be cool. End of the day, it's entertainment. You're there to entertain.
Yeah, I see. So obviously wrestling in itself is, as you mentioned, it is entertainment in a nutshell. And it kind of very much comes hand in hand when you obviously creating choreographing fight sequences, because as a wrestler yourself, you've got to choreograph with, or I presume, I don't know myself too well, you can obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I can imagine you have to choreograph with your colleagues and with the people who you're actually going onto stage with.
It helps, but normally with wrestling it's different to like film, how we do it, because in film you know exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Whereas
with wrestling, often it's done on the fly. So if I do something, you know to go with it and let it happen.
Right, okay. So I guess it's like you get taught a set of moves and how to counter those set of moves, and you have to utilize that whilst on stage as such, right?
Yeah, for wrestling, it's more you get taught the moves and how to take them so that you make the other person look good, and they'll do vice versa.
Yeah.
Whereas with film and our job, it's, I'm going to punch you, and I know you're going to go, and make it look real painful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're going to punch me, and we'll go back and forth.
Yeah, because we're recreating what has been, directed by the director or written on the paper by the writer itself. So we always know, we can always preempt what's going to be happening. So we know that James 23 enters the building with a gun, his pistol raised, and he's going to shoot this guy on the left. We know because it's written in the script. So that's what he does, obviously. So with that being said, we as low budget filmmakers have a completely different perspective and a completely different look or outlook on these fight sequences as such, compared to the likes of the big Hollywood producers. So with our fight sequences, whenever we look to create one, we sometimes do have to sacrifice the creativity for practicality, because we can't get people jumping out of a building, we can't get people to fall from a really tall tree.
We can, but it won't be safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or legal.
If we could see, I was always taught when at university, there's like a triangle of creativity, and in this triangle you can only have two parts of it. So the triangle of creativity is time, cost, and quality, right? You can only have two pieces of that triangle. So if you want to get it done quick, and you want it to look good, it's going to cost a ton of money. Stuff like that. And with that being said, a lot of the time, as low budget people, we're trying to get it done as quickly as possible, for as little cost as possible. So therefore, sometimes, look, there goes that quality. We don't want to do that at all. So therefore, we have to flip it on its head. If we want it to cost little but look great, then what's that going to sacrifice? Time, of course. We've got to take longer to do stuff. We don't really want to do that either. So we're always in that kind of catch-22 situation. What do we do? Where do we go next? How do we make something look brilliant? And I guess, as you say, it's down to that practice and down to that prep. So, with that being said, JD, when we did Hunted, tell me your thought process when we were designing the fight sequence for Hunted.
I thought this will be easy, this will be fun, and then it started to snow on set, and the set turned to ice, and it hurt way more when I had to take a fall.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
No, when we were doing the practices, there was a lot of unsureness of where people were to fall, and it's nerve-wracking because when you've got complete strangers working together, it's scary because you're telling someone, I'm going to swing real close to you,
Yeah.
and you're going to make it look like I actually did hit you, and then you're going to hit the floor, and this is how you do it properly and safely. It's scary. It's horrifying because if I told you hit the floor right now as hard as you can, it hurts. It's scary. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, and if you like, say for example, you come into that practice arena or that practice area on a Thursday afternoon, and they say to you, right, you've got to do this, 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 and this, and give you a giant list and start running through all these sequences, and you're thinking, okay, right. So how long have I got to learn this? We know with Blockbuster in Hollywood, they go, 3 months, and they go, okay, that's great, yeah. And then with us, we go, yeah, you got until next Tuesday.
You got till 5 minutes.
Yeah, you just got to do it right now, please. So, with that being said, everything's so tight and pushed through. We've got to really rely on ourselves and our experience in the past, I guess, and use that. We kind of cheat the triangle a little bit, really. So our time that we put into it is time having learned our lessons from the past experiences. So, last year when we did a short film, when we did this action sequences, this went wrong and this went wrong. So in the future, we're going to correct that. In our next action short film, we're going to correct that. It's going to be a little bit better. And we could use that as our time part of the triangle, so to still ensure that we do the low cost and the high quality. And obviously, low cost means we can't really afford to do SFX. Obviously, do you know the difference, JD, between SFX and VFX?
I can't say I do.
Okay, I'll explain it to yourself, and I'll explain it to everyone too, just in case anybody else isn't unaware. So VFX is visual effects and SFX is special effects. So special effects are the stuff that you put onto set on the day. So there'll be like bullet casings, explosions, cap guns to make the fake firing noise. Anything that you can preemptively cram into a real life set is SFX. And VFX is all done in post-production. VFX is like your blood splatter effects or your I guess you can add more trees into the background. That's visual effects. Maybe you said you wanted a giant castle looming over this really dark wood, but you shoot on the day and there's no castle in there at all. It's just a large field. So you got to comp in your woods and your big castle to make it look looming and scary. And that's VFX as well, because it's not really there. So SFX is something that's really there in real life. VFX is something that is placed there in post-production. And that's the difference between the two. So obviously there's a heavy amount of VFX done on quite a lot of films. Not as much SFX anymore. That's because companies have the budget and have the overdrive of creativity to add this in post-production. Because people can sit there and say, or a director can sit there and say, oh man, I wish we had like a giant flamethrower right now. And a VFX guy can go, yeah, I'll do that, yeah. And they go like pay 10 grand and they go down to a studio one day and get a man to walk along with in the green screen firing a flamethrower, and then they VFX him into the background. Perfect, it's done. That's what you wanted. We put it in. So that's how VFX works in a nutshell, I guess. And SFX is like when you see the behind the scenes for 1917, and they're driving along with their massive rig, filming this guy running, and in the background you see bang, bang, bang explosions in the background. SFX, the explosions SFX bloke has put in explosions to make it look more realistic, because there's some instances and sometimes where you just can't use fake stuff.
So SFX is practical things.
Correct. Yes, that's right.
Things that are actually there.
Yeah, because it's really hard to do stuff like like flames, for example. It's really hard to VFX good-looking flames to a project. So therefore, we quite heavily rely on real-life flames. Putting little fires in the corner of a room or something when it's like a big war sequence or something, kind of works and looks a bit better, looks more authentic. And what a lot of filmmakers do, and what a lot of traditional filmmakers do, is they try and look towards having as much SFX in as possible and trying to take away the use or the need to use VFX. Somebody that mentioned that, or quite heavily mentions that anyway, is Roger Deakins. He doesn't really like the idea of using too much SFX. He feels like it spoils the film, especially shooting on blue screen. He said in an interview with Rotten Tomatoes that when he shoots stuff on blue screen, it messes with the lighting and makes it look unnatural and not as authentic as if he shot it in the real situation.
Yeah. Like I don't know about you, but I'm a personal fan of practical effects. I like prosthetic things. I like ragdoll things. Things that are actually there because it's real then.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, real as it is.
I feel like if you, I guess, if you start making stuff and creating stuff, it puts more passion into a project as well.
Yeah.
And there's more to it. So, like, for example, when we are going to be shooting our Star Wars sequence that's coming up, we've got quite a lot of stuff pre-built already and pre-made. You know, because obviously being massive Star Wars nerds anyway, you know, it's quite easy for us to, you know, reference stuff and say, oh, this is built out of this. We can design it to look like this. We know exactly what we're talking about, so we know exactly what we can make. And putting that love and affection towards something or towards a project makes it all that better, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it makes the piece all the more realistic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that being said, obviously, complex fight sequences become less and less complex the more you break it down. And if you can always try and not necessarily cheat the system, but look for alternatives and ways in which you can make something look authentic but not actually be authentic, then that I guess is a win for your part, isn't it?
Yeah, and like, I don't know about you behind the camera, but for us on the front end of the camera, it helps like keep us grounded, visualize what to react from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, if you shout explosion and we know that in VFX there's going to be a big explosion to a side, we'll take a dive.
Mm-hmm.
It's way easier if we actually see a real explosion nearby and go, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm actually scared. Yeah, more authentic reaction, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah,
and that's why, you know, when we start doing bigger fight sequences ourselves, you know, we're going to start hiring in more martial arts oriented people that know actually how to punch and how to break and how to actually do the stuff, rather than hiring in people who I guess know how to act fight. And act fighting is different to actual fighting, isn't it? It's not as raw and rugged. It's not as I guess, yeah. Also, at the same time, even then, some martial arts instructors don't actually fight realistically to what would happen, I'm going to say, on the street, in inverted commas, because but I think people will get what I mean by on the street. So, like, on the street fighting is stuff like, you know, you're walking down the road and someone swings a punch at you. What the hell are you going to do? You're not going to go into like a massive stance and start start doing a perfect karate kick, are you?
When I learned for security to do bouncer work, the first thing they teach you is the average fight lasts 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Don't forget anything you've seen in a film. It's 10 seconds. It will be over very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously our aim is not to make sure our big fight sequences last 10 seconds. Obviously we do want to draw it out. We do want to make it dramatic and all that jazz. But we also want to keep it as realistic as possible. So it's got to be as true to itself as it needs to be. And yeah, so I guess to answer my own question for myself, we sometimes have to sacrifice creativity for practicality, only because we don't have the budget to push in that creativity as such.
Yeah.
But if we were to be able to improve ourselves and improve the way in which we make films ourselves, then focusing on past experiences and focusing on the way in which we've created our films in the past will definitely enhance and will definitely help our ability to look at projects, I guess, in a different light, and change the way in which we make films. So, yeah, what do you reckon, JD?
Which, like, do you think it impacts it? Yeah, definitely, because if we don't have the budget to make a big explosion, either in SFX or VFX, we're just stuck. We're not going to have an explosion. We're going to have to rewrite something and find an alternative. We're not in that pit of luxury. Yeah,
absolutely. So that is actually going to be the end of today's episode of the Worthit podcast. I really do hope you enjoyed. Yes. Oh my God, we are done already. Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm looking at the times now thinking, yep, this is good. All
right, well, back to regular scheduled lockdown stuff of staring at the wall.
Absolutely, damn right. So yeah, thank you very much for listening along to this episode of the Worthit podcast. Of course, we are creating as much content as we possibly can during this lockdown period for you guys to listen to watch, and to enjoy. So please do come and check out all of our social media pages. They'll be listed down in a link in the description below. And of course, if you do want to check out more YouTube content, then our channel link is also down there too. Hit that subscribe button, maybe if you want to hit that notification bell for when we upload our content. So yes, guys, thank you very much for listening along. Thank you very much, JD, for being a part.
Thank you for having me as always, Tom.
Not a problem, sir. I'll speak to you all next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.